Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of Xaereth Prevails. Guys, we have a new situation in Grand Arena, which is having two fleets in the fleet zone. That changes the math a little bit, and there have been a few, I won't say a few, there's been a lot of speculation about having this second fleet in the zone, and it changes the math, and therefore people are thinking that we need to change where we're deploying our important squads, where we're deploying our good squads. And I just wanted to address that a little bit. So let's do that. Okay, so what we're doing here, guys, is talking about a stalemate situation in Grand Arena where you can't clear your opponent's full 4 zones. You can only clear 2, and they can only clear 2. How do we maximize the banners in that kind of bad situation? And you know, if you're planning on setting a defense that can't do that, if it's just a pretty paper defense and you're just planning to win on efficiency, I'm not going to badmouth you for it. Efficiency play is something I do a lot on my alternate account, but this is more addressed at, like, if you have a Galactic Legend Ray and you expect your opponent to have the same and neither of you can kill Galactic Ray, which zone should Ray go in? If you're planning on just totally blocking them, which again, I'm not going to judge you, it's not necessarily my favorite strategy, but if you're going to try to block your opponent, then which zone is the best zone to block? And it used to be pretty definitive, actually. If you block the bottom zone, then your opponent could clear your top zone and your ships, and they could clear 1 squad from your bottom zone, and they would end up with, if assuming they have perfect efficiency in this situation, they would end up with like 20 fewer banners, something like that. Then if you allowed them to clear your 2 bottom zones and two squads from your top zone. So it used to be you wanted to defend those bottom 2 zones at all costs. So it used to be pretty clear cut, actually, guys. You want to clear the bottom zones if you had the choice, or you want to block your opponent from clearing those bottom zones. Math-wise, that did check out. So there wasn't much question. Now the argument is that the other zones haven't changed. 300, 300, 390, those 3 zones don't matter. They're the same as they always have been. The change is, in the fleet zone, it's now worth 318 because there's an extra fleet in there. It used to be worth 219, so it's about 100 banner change, which is pretty big. And so the argument goes that if you can block your opponent from taking those top 2 zones, then you're going to prosper. So here you can see the math here. If you clear the top zone, you get 318 for ships, 390 for a 3 squad zone, and then you can clear 1 squad from the bottom zone for a total of 768, as opposed to if you clear the bottom 2 zones for 300 and 300, and then you get 60 and 60 for the 2 other squads in the top zone, but you can't get to ships, you can't get to anything. Then you hit 200 or 720, which is, I mean, that's a pretty big difference. It's almost 50 banners, which is pretty big, and the math has definitely shifted a little bit. All right, so math-wise, this does check out. I get that, and people are going to send me screenshots, and they'll say, "Hey, look at math. Math won me this match," and I'll say, "Yay, math!" But you're ignoring something more important, which is strategy. The strategy of this, it doesn't really check out, honestly. So let's say we're all going to put our Galactic Legends up top, and we're going to defend our top zones, and that's great, wonderful. So what's going to happen, though, is your opponent, if you have a good opponent, if you have a bad opponent, then why are we having this conversation? If we're talking about good opponents here. If you have a good opponent, they aren't going to just fall for any just random ploy. The thing is, your bottom zone, if you have all your good stuff on the top, what's on your bottom front zone? Probably nothing too crazy, like something decent, I hope, I guess. But what they're going to do, they're going to say, okay, so my opponent has their 3 best teams up top, and I'll just set aside my 3 counters for those. I'm going to take out the 2 squads on the bottom, and then I'll have a perfect screenshot. Like the two squads on the bottom, like easy enough to take out probably. If they're a good opponent, they'll take those 2 out, and then they'll have a full view of the entire board. You won't have cost them anything. They'll have perfect information, and then they'll say, okay, so I have my 3 counters, and now I'm going to pick and choose which squads and which zones I want to clear. And if the back zone is actually just like too difficult for them to clear, they can actually just ignore that, use their 3 squads that they've planned to take out your top, and then with no resources expended whatsoever, they'll enter the fleet game mode, because it's a different game mode. And they haven't actually used or expended any resources to get there. And so you're essentially going to forfeit 3 zones a lot of times. So I guess if you want to just like put only your best 3 squads up top and call it good, like that's still, it doesn't work against a good player. A good player can clear 3 of your best squads, your 3 best squads. That's how it is. I put both Galactic Legends down regularly, along with a ton of other meta teams, and I still regularly clear everyone's double Galactic Legends and their General Skywalker and their Darth Revan. Like, I can beat a really strong defense because I'm a strong player, and I have the off-meta counters to deal with that. If you're fighting a good player, this strategy doesn't work. You can put your 5 best squads in the front, and they'll have a plan to be able to beat those 5 squads. That's just how it works. And if you put something in the back for them, they can just ignore it, and then you are just sitting there screwed because you've planned to not be able to clear their zones. Like you hopefully you can, but if you can't, like, then you're at a place where you've only cleared 2 zones. They've cleared 3, and it's done. The fact is, the only way you can trap your opponent right now is through those bottom zones. You can't trap them with fleets. Like, you can't say like, ha, you've expended all your resources here on killing my 3 awesome squads. Now you can't clear ships. It doesn't work that way. Maybe they're not prepared for it, but they easily could be prepared for it. It doesn't matter. Like, they're different types of resources entirely. They clear those 3 squads, and then they clear ships, and like it doesn't matter. They could be completely drained of resources by the time they took those 3 squads, and then they're like, oh hey, look, I have all the resources I started with for this new game mode that I'm entering into in the back zone here. As opposed to if you wanted to be tricky in the bottom zones, they can attack. They can take those 2 bottom. They can take the 2 bottom squads, and then in the back they'll be like, oh, I don't have enough resources to take out Rey as well. Ships don't come into it. They've already expended resources for the bottom zone, and then they have to expend resources for the back bottom zone. So in the end, like it makes way more sense to play the way we kind of have been doing. Like, if you want to trap someone, you don't trap them on the top. You can't. It's not actually a trap. It doesn't work that way. It's a different game mode once you hit that back zone. Instead, you want to be trapping your opponent in the back, in the bottom back, because they have expended squads for their front zone that they would normally also be able to apply to the squads in the back zone, though they can't use those now because they've already used them in the front. On top of all of this, guys, you're putting your 3 best squads up top, and your opponent just has already really great information. And if you put 5 really strong squads up front, you're pretty much projecting like what all you have available. Like, it's not a secret. There's no question of what's gonna happen. Like, there's just not any mystery. I don't know, guys. Like, yes, the math does check out. If you have to choose one zone that you have to protect at all costs, if for some reason it becomes that, then sure, like, go for the top, I guess. But keep in mind that a good player, you're just giving a good player perfect information. And you don't want to do that against a good player, because they can plan ruthlessly after that. After they take out those 2 token squads on the bottom, or even if they're good, they've already accounted for the top zone, and whatever you put in the back isn't really a trap. It's just like their choice to either clear it or clear just the top and your fleet. Like, you're giving yourself poorer options. You're giving them too much information, and information, honestly, like, as a player who likes to plan, I like to plan, and I would love it. I'd love it if people want to stack all of their good stuff on top. Man, it makes it too easy for me, frankly. Like, I'm not trying to say I'm just always going to win in that situation, but like, it just makes it way easier. Instead of worrying about, do they have a Galactic Legend in the back? I might have to account for that. I don't know. I have to save this squad. There's no trap. I'm like, yes, I have to save that squad for the top, because I already know it's there. It's easy. I know it's there. And I know I have to clear that top zone because I have to get to fleets so I can clear that too. Like, it's just too easy. Instead of, if you just like keep your Galactic Legend on for offense or something, like, that causes way more uncertainty, because I'm like, is it in the back zone? Where is it? I don't know. I have to keep a squad available for it. I can't use that squad on the bottom zone. Anyways, guys, I'm probably just going in circles at this point. I just wanted to talk about my perspective here. The strategy of it says that we still need to create traps. We still need to cause that uncertainty for our opponents. Yes, the math checks out, but math isn't everything. Math is great, but we need to use it the right way. And in this case, giving perfect information to our opponents is not worth the marginal chance that a great player is not going to be able to be prepared and beat those top zones. So, anyways, guys, I'm going to let you go. Thank you all so much for watching, and remember that in all things, Xaereth prevails. Even in math. Sometimes.